2 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few sleeper wide receivers you could easily play this week, I believe, and put on your roster without worrying. The first guy is Cole Beasley of the Buffalo Bills. So in week 1, Cole Beasley, who looked pretty good for this Bill team. And obviously we know he's a good slot receiver and a guy who's a good reception and catching the ball is Beasley. And in week 1, 13 targets for 8 catches and 60 yards versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And here in week 2, he's at the Miami Dolphins. And once again, most of the attention is going to roll to Stephon Diggs, and that's where it keeps Beasley open in the middle of the field on some of those sideline routes here. So I think Cole Beasley can have another good game. He had, obviously, in PPR leagues, a pretty solid game was Beasley with 14 fantasy points. And this week in Miami, I think it's going to be a grind-out type of game once again between 2 division rivals over there in the AFC East. And I think Cole Beasley, he's going to make 6 or 7 catches, probably 50, 60 yards again, and possibly find the end zone. So I would be pretty confident to put him in my lineup if you don't have many options at the wide receiver position. And not many people are really talking or thinking about Beasley. And this week I have him definitely as a sleeper that you could plug and play if you need to. The next wide receiver is Tim Patrick of the Denver Broncos. Said Jerry Jeudy, he went out with injury in week 1 with a high ankle sprain versus the New York Giants. And now Tim Patrick, he was a recommended pickup by me off the waiver wire, and he got added in 19% of fantasy leagues this week here. So he should be the number 2 guy over there behind Cortland Sutton. And even Cortland Sutton ain't 100% supposedly just yet after coming off an ACL injury last year. So week 1, once Jeudy went down, obviously Patrick had a bigger role, and he had 4 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown. And this week, another good matchup for him at the Jacksonville Jaguars, where we just saw Brandon Cooks go for 5 catches, 132 yards, and we even saw Danny Amendola score a touchdown in week 1 versus Jacksonville. So right here, it's a pretty good matchup, no doubt about it, for Tim Patrick. And right here, I like a lot of Denver Bronco players this week to put in your lineup. But right here, if you need a sleeper option, I think Tim Patrick can make some noise this week at the wide receiver position. And the third and final sleeper I have at wide receiver this week is Sammy Watkins of the Baltimore Ravens. So Sammy Watkins, when he plays, which is few and far in between, this guy can contribute and put up numbers. And in week 1, that's exactly what he did with Sammy Watkins. And right now, he got added in 6% of fantasy leagues over the week after that good week 1 outing versus the Vegas Raiders. 4 catches for 96 yards on 8 targets. And here in week 2, he versus one of his former teams in the Kansas City Chiefs, where he spent the last few seasons with Sammy Watkins. And he was just always injured at the wrong times, it seems like, is Watkins. So if this guy could ever stay healthy, we know his potential. We know he could be a deep ball threat, and we know he can make plays. And this week, the Baltimore Ravens, they're going to have to throw the football around a lot here. And it wouldn't be a surprise to me to see Sammy Watkins have a similar stat line like he did in week 1. He had fantasy points in PPR leagues was Watkins. So right here, they're going to have to throw a lot, in my opinion, Baltimore. The running back situation still isn't all ironed out, even though Tyson Williams and Latavius Murray, in my opinion, they're going to stick with both those guys. But John Harbaugh saying all 4 running backs seeing an opportunity, I highly doubt that. Maybe sprinkle in Bell and Freeman if he's on the active roster here and there, but I just don't see it. But anyway, Sammy Watkins, he could be a sleeper this week. Hollywood Brown, he hasn't practiced much this week yet, and he's questionable going into the week. So right here, I think Sammy Watkins could be a player you could plug in your lineup and have some confidence as a sleeper, especially in deeper leagues. So that's a few wide receivers that could be sleeper options here in week 2 of the fantasy football season.